Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I do this now or roll call? Yes, ma'am.
Would everyone please be sure their microphones are on? Mr. Brookhart?
Here.
Mrs. Cooper?
Here.
Mr. Kroll? Here. Dr. Gatachu?
Here.
Dr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Reichert?
Here.
Mr. Huron?
Here.
Mr. Vognetz?
Here.
Mr. Clauser?
Here. Okay, we had an executive session meeting from 6:05 to 7:12 to discuss personnel. Discuss personnel. Okay. Floor is open for public comment. Okay, the board will take action to approve the employment of Brian Albertson as athletic director, Danville High School, at a yearly starting salary of $45,000, effective July 1st, 2022.
I make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Brookhart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
No.
Mr. Kroll? Dr. Gatachu?
Yes.
Dr. Green?
I've been advised by counsel not to make the public statement that I wrote for today, so I'm going to vote no.
Mr. Reichert?
Yes.
Mr. Huron?
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz?
No.
Mr. Clauser?
Yes. Okay, the board will take action to approve a pay increase for the district accountant, human resource coordinator, effective July 1st, 2022, as presented. It's Jonathan Adams, the district accountant, human resource coordinator.
I motion to approve.
Second.
So this is the one that we voted not to approve the 3-year contract, and in the process of doing that,
Right.
we also voted that he wouldn't get his raise for this year.
So all this is doing is providing a raise in the current contract. This is not a multi-year.
Right.
This is just
Correct.
getting the same raise that everybody else is getting.
2 years.
Yes.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. What's that again?
Yeah, because the renewal is for a 2-year period, this
Yes,
is
it's 2
approving the raise for that 2-year period. That was the automatic renewal.
And the reason that we're renewing is because this never came to us for a vote in time, so that wouldn't be triggered. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Tough vote. Because we're bound to the contract for the 2 years.
Right.
This is strictly whether within that, we're going to give the raise.
For
Okay.
the next year.
All right.
I need a little clarification. Now I'm confused by that little dialogue. Could someone help clarify this?
What happened is what Mr. Adams had requested, that we have his contract renewed at a 3-year contract as opposed to a 2-year contract. In March, if the board had done nothing according to his contract, in March, it is renewed for an equal amount of time, which was 2 years. So it was automatically renewed. But since we didn't vote on the new contract, we never put him on for a raise. So now we're putting him out for a raise. So his raise would be a 3%, a 3% increase, which he goes under Act 93 as far as following the raise scale.
But the reason we're bound to the 2 years is because it was never on the agenda.
Well, it was presented, the actual, everything was sent to the board president prior to the date that was needed to be done. So everything was sent, there was just nothing ever done on the board agenda, correct?
Correct. Per the contract terms, he had the obligation to notify the board of their deadline. They were notified of the deadline, and there was no action. So therefore, that triggered the automatic renewal period for that 2-year term.
We're
It was
bound
just
with-
he was willing to agree to a 3-year contract, and essentially, the parties would mutually amend that portion, but that was the vote that was denied at the last board meeting.
A nice way to put it, okay.
Ready? Yes, we have a motion and a second. Are we ready to take the vote?
I need a motion?
I have the motion.
I'm-
Dr.
motion is
Gatacho
seconded.
motioned, Mr. Reichert seconded.
Okay.
Okay? Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll? Yes. Dr. Gatacho?
Yes.
Dr. Green?
No.
Mr. Reichert?
Yes.
Mr. Huron?
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz?
Yes.
Mr. Burkhart?
No.
Mr. Clauser?
Yes. The board will take action to appoint Harry Mathias as acting superintendent effective July 16th, 2022, or until the district hires a new superintendent, whichever occurs first, with the terms to be memorialized between the parties.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Kroll? Dr. Gatacho?
Yes.
Dr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Reichert?
Yes.
Mr. Huron?
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz?
Yes.
Mr. Burkhart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Clauser?
Yes. I'd like a motion to amend the agenda to hire Harry Mathis to conduct a business at a comparable rate. I need to amend the agenda, a motion to amend the agenda to add that to it.
Motion to amend the agenda.
Second. Well, and just to clarify, that's
Correct.
to hire Harry to conduct the business manager
Interview.
interviews
Ah,
at a comparable
At a
rate,
comparable
just for
rate,
the
yes.
board motion.
I'm sorry, who made the motion then?
I think I did. That was first.
And then also because it's a motion from the floor, public comment.
Right. Okay, is there any public comment? Hearing?
Dr. Gatacho?
Yes.
Dr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Reichert?
Yes.
Mr. Huron?
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz?
Yes.
Mr. Burkhart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll? Yes. Mr. Clauser?
Yes. If I can get this right. Now I need a motion to hire Harry Mathias to conduct the business manager interviews at a comparable rate to his previous compensation fee.
I motion. Okay, I second.
Was Sherry first? Ms. Cooper first? Doesn't matter.
I split of a second.
Okay. We got it. Dr. Green?
Yes.
Or- Oh, I'm
Before,
sorry.
and then public comment again, I would just,
Yeah, is there any public comment? I'm glad you're there. Okay, Ms. Terry, thank you.
Dr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Reichert?
Yes.
Mr. Huron?
Yes.
Mr. Vognetz?
Yes.
Mr. Burkhart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper?
yes.
Mr. Kroll? Yes. Dr. Gatacho?
Yes.
Mr. Clauser?
Yes. Okay. The board will discuss and establish future meeting dates for the board to meet as a committee of a whole. Would anybody like to open this up?
If you guys don't mind, I would like to have it on a Monday for personally, simply because Monday is the least busy day for me after 5 p.m. And I recommend that we do it so we have our board meeting on the second Monday, I believe, right? So now,
We want, correct me if I'm wrong, but we want to have the committee of the whole meeting prior to the.
Correct,
So,
yeah, so.
It would have to be the
any
first or
meeting-
second
any
unless we
meeting is
change.
al- Yeah, so any meeting is prior to the next meeting, but I'm suggesting that we do it the third, so, no, the fourth. So the second and the fourth will have, the second will have the regular board meeting, the second Monday, and fourth Monday, if we can have the meeting as a whole, a committee as a whole, then we'll have a 2-week gap between every other. So 1 week we have regular board meeting, 2 weeks later we have committee of the whole, and next 2 weeks later we have a board. So we keep doing that instead of.
Right,
having
but
it-
then we'll have to, we should get a committee of the whole meeting in before our next meeting then.
Yeah, so so for example, today we have let's say we have a regular board meeting. Okay, so the next couple of weeks later, we'll have the committee of the whole. Then the committee of the whole will work for what's gonna happen for the following board meeting, which would be the second Monday.
Okay, what often happens in school districts when they have a committee of the whole is they will have their committee of the whole meeting a week prior to their regular board meeting, not necessarily 2 weeks, but just a week prior.
So you think this is too far out?
They should be
Two-
consecutive weeks, really.
What's
Like you s-
that?
They should be consecutive
Yeah,
weeks.
that's how the practice has
Yeah.
been held.
And typically they do that because there can be a lot of issues that pop up in a 2-week period
Yeah.
with amending the agenda, because the purpose of the committee at the whole is to give the board an opportunity to discuss all the items that can come up for
Okay,
a vote,
so-
so that way
Okay.
you already pre-vet and have that opportunity to discuss the items, and then there's
So
less things that get
we-
added.
We're talking about if we elect to do a Monday, this is gonna be a first and second Monday then. Committee of the whole for first week first Monday, and second Monday will be, right?
Right, and in July, the first Monday's the 4th.
Good
luck.
So, I mean, you could,
Could we start that later?
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
do it in July?
Right.
Because
You could start that effective August.
Dr.
August.
Boyle's departing, you have a new acting superintendent, your agendas are gonna, everything's gonna be different.
right,
So it might be-
off to August.
Just hold off, yeah,
so make August, the first Monday in August as your first committee of the whole.
yeah, makes sense.
Anybody have any other input?
Do we have a time frame for business manager interviews? Is there a path we're trying to follow here, Mr. Clauser?
I think we should try to get it done as soon as we can.
Makes sense. I think that would be wise. Position you're preparing for your annual financial
So-
report, single audit.
Bobby's done on the 6th, am I right? July 6th? So we will have a gap of a few days before we get the next one then. So we need to have the person done, because, now, without a business manager and a new superintendent, that probably may not be a good thing, so we need to have it done with the same urgency that we did with the acting
My thought would
superintendent.
be to talk to Mr. Matthias and find out his available dates, and then have our office go ahead and set up the interviews for him.
Do we
So,
have,
but I need to talk to him first, or somebody needs to confirm with him what dates he's available.
How many candidates are there?
There's 3.
Oh, just 3. Yeah, we can have that done pretty quick.
Who's gonna talk to him? Are you gonna talk to him?
I can
That's, yeah, I
get
just,
his availability dates.
yeah, just make sure, and then we'll have to check everybody here. This is one that will be done before, in front of the board, Mr. Clauser, is that the path we're following here, is this how we're doing it?
The board has to let me know what it wants to do,
Well, that's why I brought it
and
up.
I'll pass that on to,
Okay.
right. Let me back up. Everybody's good with that Monday prior to the meetings that are scheduled now for the committee of the whole meeting? Is there any objection to that from anyone? Okay. Okay,
And that'll be for the remainder of the year for, effective August, just for the clarity of the,
Okay.
August 1st,
starting, yeah.
for the rest of the year.
okay. The board concerns and items for the next meeting agenda. At this point, I would like to discuss our hiring process so that we know how to conduct these business manager, the hiring process for the business manager before we have our committees meet and adjust the policies and stuff.
I think the date should be available to us, and we should be able to come and watch. And I think it's completely suitable if we don't interview ourselves and don't comment.
So I think our role has to be clearly defined, that we are there to oversee that the process is followed, and we're not deviating from the process, and that creates problem. Our goal is to get the best person in public with as much transparency as we can. There are some things in the hiring process that personal things that can be not be revealed, but aside from that, everything had to be open so the other candidates are aware of the process that was taking place. And the board members are there to make sure all the steps are done. It's their duty of the superintendent to review applicants, even though we can see them, we cannot have a copy of any of that. So this is something that we have to clearly understand. And then we go in, and if we want to, we can attend an interview and make sure that the process is followed. We cannot ask questions, we cannot make comments, we cannot suggest. We might have, when it comes to voting, we can say this and that, but I think we cannot interfere with the process. We cannot micromanage. This works by delegation. So the board delegates the superintendent to pick the person that's the right place, the right person in place.
Aren't those the things that we're going to be working on moving forward?
Correct.
Right, okay.
And I don't think that's actually necessarily entirely true for the hiring of the business manager.
Right,
If I
no, I don't
recall,
either. Yeah.
in the context of policy in this district, it is actually a contract between the board and the business manager, not involving the superintendent.
What do
Business
you mean
manager's
not
a
involved?
contracted employee.
What's that?
The business manager is a contracted employee along with the superintendent. They're the only two we have, really, other than the human resources. Yeah, it's administratively.
What is, okay, so I was not thinking of the business manager, so what does that mean? That's a different process that's identical to how we hire a superintendent?
Do we
I
want to
would
talk?
say similar.
Similar.
Yeah, you may not.
So we might have
but-
some details that we had to work through then.
Well, the superintendent then would review, but given the fact that we have 3 applications, I would say that we would probably interview all 3.
Oh.
So that would take that piece off the table for the interviewing process. And then what has to happen is the board members are notified of the dates, or the date that the interviews are going to begin. And the way I would have done it would be then when it comes to choosing a candidate or 2 candidates, bring them before the board for consideration as a group, so that you have that chance to then have a conversation, discussion with the individual. I'm not sure, and I'd have to ask here, can they have 5 members or more, or would it have to be 4 members, which is what I was thinking.
I'd probably recommend under 5 just
Right,
for to avoid
Right, so
sunshine.
you could have 4 members of the board to meet with them.
Slow
and
down a
talk.
second here. Well, hold on. That's not consistent with any, I haven't seen administrative interviews done. Are you talking about the superintendent? You'd only have 4 there?
No, I'm talking
Oh,
about
oh,
a business manager
Okay.
right now.
Uh,
That's what we're talking
Interview,
about.
right?
So what's the difference between the two?
Well, I think.
Why is one 4 and the other is a full board?
Well,
Dr. Boyle, no
I'm just
disrespect,
telling
I'm
you what
asking
I
the
would have
attorney. I'm asking the
said.
attorney.
So
I
that's,
appreciate the fact that you get to speak on items, but is there a difference between interviewing business managers and a superintendent and quorums in an interview? I've never heard that before, but maybe it's true.
It's mainly just with the process of deliberation, that's the only reason why I was saying, if it's truly a process where again, the board activity and their interaction, if they're truly there as silent observers, then there would be no deliberation, so it doesn't run afoul of any Sunshine Act considerations. It's just, I'm not sure.
Have
the
you ever
level
seen
of
a challenge of that type?
I personally haven't,
Okay.
but that's the only reason I said that, just because I'm not sure how involved the board wants to be with the business manager position, so that's the only reason why I said, not knowing.
But you're not aware of any legal precedent that states that we can't have more than 4 people in an interview or any challenge of any type that's ever been made against any board for having more than 4 in an interview?
Correct, not off the top of my head.
So,
Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
I
no,
know
no.
it's off the
And-
cuff, but I want to clarify that because that's where we're going here.
Correct, and that's why I wanted to say with that caveat that
Yeah.
depending on the board's, interactivity and potentially the argument of deliberations, that's the reason why I said caution the 4 board members for that.
And I just
purpose.
pushed it because I was a superintendent, and every interview I was in, there were 9 board members there, all of them. Okay.
So I was not thinking of this particular selection, but in the process in general, when you select a business manager, so it should be either or. It cannot be, you can't come or you done, it's either 9 of us, you show up and interview, or no quorum, no 4. So which one are we talking about? So when we interview superintendents, all 9 members have to be there, or at least are expected to be there.
Correct.
So that we have the full quorum. But if this is an interview, not like the one I'm talking about, then it cannot be 5.
But no, we just established they're not, there's
So-
nothing that says they are different,
Correct.
correct? So all 9 of us can be there.
but I
Can or
guess the
should?
question is, do all 9 have to be there, or what if only 6 want to come?
I don't think they have to
The
be
option,
there.
the option is there,
Yeah,
okay.
right.
It's the option, the board has to decide whether they all want to be involved or not. They might not want to be.
Yeah,
in-
because, I'm sorry,
No.
if we start excluding people, I think we're opening another can of worms as elected representatives.
Oh, no, Judge, I'm trying to clarify, because if you are talking about Sunshine Act, and if you're filling a quorum, and now this is not a formal meeting, is that any issue with the process? I'm not trying to choose any of this, but I'm trying to see what's the right way to do this.
And that's what I think we had discussed, Wayne, when he was asking me some questions off the top of my head. I wasn't aware of any specific challenge, but that's why I wanted to raise that with respect to that deliberations portion. If the board itself is just being a silent observer, you don't really have that deliberations portion to the argument to say it was an improper quorum. So that's the reason I threw that caveat out to say, again, depending on the board's desired level of interactivity with the interviews, that would be the determination. So if it's truly the board just wanting to sit there and see the candidates and observe, I don't see an issue with that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, fair.
Thanks.
And then so now, let's say we sat through the 3 interviews, or 4 or 5 interviews for a business manager, and then who selects them? So that the board will have another meeting to vote on the one person?
Yeah, you would always have to have official board action at a public
Correct. So
board
that's the
meeting.
next step, is you attend without any comment, without any opinion, and then you go to the formal board meeting to vote on what you saw, or
Oh.
what you believe in.
We'd obviously have an executive session before a voting meeting so that the board could discuss any.
Vet,
Yes.
fair. Okay, so that's the process.
As we discussed precedents, the board was here with Mrs. Ely when she was hired. You weren't here yet, Dr. Boyle,
Yeah,
and
but
there was
the-
no
the board was
superintendent.
involved.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was an acting, I don't even remember who it was at that point. But I know the board did the interview, and maybe Dave Price, maybe, I'm not sure.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
The board did the interviewing, or the board was at the interview?
board did the interview. Yeah. As I recall, my memory's not that great.
No.
I
When
think-
Mrs. Illy and I talked about it, she said that there were board members present.
It wasn't the entire board that time. No,
I don't believe it was.
no, it was not, because I was one of them, but I don't remember who was there exactly.
So the interview was being done by the administration.
Oh, the interview was done by the board. There was no superintendent.
That was at the second round.
I don't remember.
I-
don't know.
That's why I discussed it the way
Yeah.
I discussed it.
Yeah.
So how about other staff from school staff? Physics teacher, music teacher?
That
Principal?
involves the principals, other teachers actually attend those interviews. You know, that's a little different process.
So, okay, so do we need to talk about that now, or that's not for today? Shall we?
I thought you
do
guys were looking to set up
The
a-
business
a
manager.
committee to discuss that and look at policy?
That's coming,
We-
right?
Yeah,
So
that's
shall we-
That's
future.
what you said,
Postpone
that's
it
on
to-
its way, that's coming, but not now.
Okay, not for today,
Right, that's, remember
for the work, for
Yes.
work session.
the committee.
Yes, as a whole.
No. We're putting a committee together.
Yeah, okay, so this is what we would need to work on, the
Right,
rest.
that's what that committee's
So now,
for.
we know what we're gonna do with the business manager, which is urgent. The rest, the committee will take care of.
Got it.
Fair enough.
You're going to talk to Harry and
Yes,
get the
I'll
dates,
give him a
and
call.
then we can notify Donna.
So I just want to be clear. It sounds like you'll set up the dates. We'll be told the dates. If we want to attend, we'll attend.
That's what I have written down here. That's what I'm
Perfect.
going to tell Mr. Matthias.
And as of right now, it sounds like the will of the board is that we won't speak, we won't do the actual interview, even though technically we could. And that we'll listen if we're there. Does that sound like what we're representing?
I think so, that's what,
Works for me.
unless, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear so I know what the expectations are.
Does anybody have any more comment on that? Any input? Okay. Board concerns and items for next meeting agenda.
So this is the last session that we have, that we're about to adjourn. So I have a comment, to be honest. I really have major concerns in how things are going in this district. I think we should look at finding what the strengths are and weaknesses are and working towards making it stronger. And with that regard, we have lost 3 administrative positions. Honestly, I didn't know Dr. Boyle would be here today, so I apologize and just act like you're not listening to me, because I'm going to say a few things, which is the board's conduct in the last few months has made this place a little dysfunctional in terms of how we approach, in terms of adversarialness towards the school superintendent and the school business manager, has created a lot of problems. And this will have its ramifications in the future. For one, Dr. Boyle, who had only 1 year to go, had to step down within a couple of weeks. So instead of having a smooth transition, now we have almost a disruption here. There's a lot of things that will be lost between now and the permanent position. There's a lot of nuances that the outgoing superintendent could have transferred to the incoming superintendent. And now we will not have, unless Dr. Boyle is kind enough to let the incoming permanent superintendent approach, there's a lot of details that are going to be missing. And that makes the life of the incoming superintendent much, much harder than it is. And if you think being a superintendent is an easy job, ask Mr. Reichert. I have not spoken to him. This is the first time he's listening from me. But there's so many times when we evaluate and sees a lot of things that a superintendent has to do, he always appreciates how tough the job is. And it was extremely tough the last 2.5 years or so since the pandemic. And I appreciate Dr. Boyle's approach to this. there were so many hard choices that she made, and that had made, it was the right decision for the board and the district, but it was not popular amongst the public, and that probably have translated into some kind of personal attack that I thought is not going to be good for the board or for the district. So I asked the community members, instead of trying to have a personal issue with any one of the people, give us what you need. Let us establish a way to do things. Instead of being personal, let's focus on the process in the district and at the end, our students. And the other thing is, there's a lot of what I think is micromanaging going on there, and there was a few kind of nepotism, or maybe something that is probably not appropriate, trying to get a certain person hired. I don't know, I'm not aware of that, but I heard it from the public that board members are trying to do that. It's not appropriate, it's not fair, if it's really actually the truth. But moving forward, we had to make this place such an optimum working environment that we can get the best people. This type of behavior, this type of approach that we're having now is not gonna let us choose the best candidates. I'm very worried about the future, okay? So I would say from now on, in the work session, we define our role, like we're starting to do that, and everything we do, especially the board members interacting with school administrators, have to pass through the president so that it's easier to deal with the coming superintendent. Mr. Matthias, we approved him today, has an experience, he probably knows how to deal with that. But the board's role should not be adversarial towards the school administrator. It should be supportive. We had to be not only supportive, but we had to also clearly define what needs to be done, process-wise and the like. So I hope we're not gonna continue like this. The type of behavior we have, probably, unless we check it, will continue to disrupt this place, and it's not gonna make the incoming superintendent any better than what we have. Thank you.
Can I say something real quickly? And I totally agree with you, it should not be adversarial. Contact directly from board to administration is a policy issue, and I agree with you, but that's not what it says in policy, so we'd have to switch it. It does allow board to contact administration directly. I don't think that's a good idea, but policy says it is, so we'd have to address that part of it. And the other thing I'd like to say real quickly, kind of off topic of what you said, we're missing 2 series, which I brought up before to you in our policies on the website, the 400 and the 500. And I know we're not going to recover or put all those in. I'm still policy committee, that's why I'm bringing it up. We need to find out how to recover them and get them back on the website, because I don't know of anybody that doesn't have those 2 series other than us, from what I've seen. I know Dr. Boyle's aware of it. It's not your issue. It's just something we need to address, and we need to, through PSBA probably. I mean, that's a lot of policies.
And when I contacted PSBA for the administrative regulations, they did not send anything for the 400,
Okay.
500 series.
All right.
So when they came out, they put everything in the 300.
Okay, and if that's okay to do it that way, it's just kind of odd that it goes 300, 600, and 2 of them are missing. But if it encompasses everything, I don't think it quite does. That's fine.
The 300 became more generic.
Yeah, okay.
Is there any other any other comment from the board? I'd like to give a shout out to somebody. Today when I was trying to use my school email, I found that I haven't received anything since the 23rd. I thought that I had sent several emails. They never went out. And I'm sitting there with my phone, fixing it the best way that I can, which involves some vulgarity. I called the school and I asked for the help from one of the techs. The man left the school, came to where I was at on the road, and fixed it all for me right there. So a big shout out to Rich Wilson. Good job, buddy. Is there any public comment?
Whatever you want to do, just make sure.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tina Bartholomew, and I teach Spanish here at the primary building, as well as I'm the girls' head track and field coach. And I just wanted to let everybody know that we had an awesome week at the track and field camp this past week. We had about 130 children from grades 1 through 8 learning about track and field events. And on Friday, we had a mini meet. It was pretty awesome. And we had some sponsors, and I wanted to publicly thank them. They wanted to be on the t-shirt because they really appreciate what we're doing here for our children. And I don't know how many comments I had from parents saying, I'm so happy they're not at home playing video games all afternoon. So all last week from 1 to 4 in the afternoon, kids were out actively involved, and it did rain. It was really hot, and we enjoyed it no matter what. So they learned several events of track and field, and I just wanted to publicly thank Phoenix Physical Rehabilitation, which is downtown on East Market Street, and also to EXP Realty, in particular Susie and Dan Hartman, for sponsoring the t-shirts that the kids got to wear on the day of their mini-meet. So it was pretty awesome, and I wanted to thank them and thank the district for also letting us actually carry out such an awesome week for the kids.
Thank you, because it was pretty amazing for all the students, and I've heard back from students even today of how special that was for them, and I have one who says he's going to be a track star. So, thank you so much.
Shall I give these to you then?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any other public comment? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Tell Mike not to run away.